3, 2, 1. Brent, how copy?
Hey, what's up, man? Welcome back, everybody. I know it's been a minute, but it's been a pretty hectic week for both of us.
Yeah,
Since
man.
the last podcast, a lot has happened in our lives.
Oh my God.
Pretty crazy shit,
And
but
we'll
get into it.
I had it all in my head, like I'm gonna talk about it, but now that I'm sitting here, I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know if I want to talk about it.
I can talk about I mentioned it briefly on our last podcast, but I don't want to put too much personal info out there, but just so you can get a little background of what's going on with us. February 7th, my dad passed away in Virginia. Yeah. And, so we went through all that process, and this is just crazy because he was married. I had a stepmother. She had severe health issues, mental and physical health issues. But get this. So family comes in, everything's set. The morning of my dad's funeral, we are on our way from the hotel to the church for the service. It's like 30 minutes until the service, and I get a call from a detective that my stepmom is dead.
No, man, yeah.
So,
fuck.
Just insanity, and no foul play or anything. It just she was just gone, and a friend. The night before we had my dad's funeral, my stepmom called and left a really nasty message, and she said she wanted nothing to do with any of us. So it's just been tough, man. So been dealing with that, and of course, now that everything legally falls on my sister and I. So that's
she vented and basically, I don't want to have anything to do with you.
Yeah.
And then died.
But
that's terrible.
The detective, I talked to him for like 30 minutes, and there was nothing. At first, maybe we thought suicide because they were, she realized she had nobody. That's just how the situation was, and I was thinking hard about it, but there's a thing called broken heart syndrome. That's a real medical issue that I researched, and I guess maybe that's what happened. But yeah, she went sometime early that morning, Saturday morning. And when they found her, she was already in like the first stage of rigor mortis, so she'd been there for a while. But they just found her on the ground. No foul play. Dude. The detective told me, based on her medical history and her drug use, her prescription use, and she was on all kinds of medications, that they just closed it out right there. Right. So, but yeah, dealing with that's
heavy,
motherfucker, man.
That's
especially
heavy.
Note to anyone out there, man. If you have parents or anyone, just make sure your shit's lined up legally because this has been a fucking nightmare. It's still not over. And we have a long road to go, but just a little personal information there. Man. So,
and that's heavy, man, because I know you're a real empathic type person.
I am, man.
And you've been dealing with this.
It's been.
I hope I've been like in your corner. Like if you ask me for help,
absolutely.
I'm there.
And that's another thing. I've had so many people come out of the woodwork and just close friends. And what's really strange is we all like to. Here goes a little philosophy. We all like to think that we're kind of just out here in a path, and we have beliefs, and we like to discredit a lot of like universal stuff and stuff like that. But the strangest thing is while I was going through all of this, like people started coming out of the woodwork from like 20 years ago in my life, which for me was a happy time in my life when I was in my mid 20s or early 20s. And it's like just how the universe knows, as corny as it sounds, it's like energy knows when you need support and when you need to feel certain feelings that you haven't felt.
Yeah.
So literally the week my dad died, I had like 3 close friends from 20 years ago who I hadn't even seen or heard of, who I think about every day, just come out of the woodwork and we're in my lives again. And of course, when my dad died, a bunch of people started coming out. But just want to thank, if anyone's listening who's close to me, just the support is absolutely 100% what's gotten me through all of this, still getting me through. So thank you. Buddy's been here batting for me, checking
I know,
on me.
I kind of felt bad. I felt bad. Because we got to get on podcasts.
Oh, yeah. We got to do this.
And you were like, oh, I know you're going through a lot. And I was trying to be sympathetic, and I was also trying to be like that, not father figure, but that, hey, man.
Just like, come on, man.
You got it. Life goes on.
That's right.
You can do what you got to do, but life goes on, and we got to, not that this is a major thing, but it's something.
So we got to build it.
Yeah. And so I was, like, we didn't do one last week. And I was talking to Jody, and I was like, "No, man, I understand, but at the same time, I've always heard people, they give you that you gotta, get back up, and you gotta handle your shit,
Maybe this is a way for me to get up there and keep.
I think it will be, man. I think it will be. I think that you've been going through it, and maybe venting a little bit about it and connecting and sharing that experience will relieve some of the stress, maybe. And that's what I'm told, anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, just getting on here and being here tonight, like I said, in the midst of all this, because I reached out to you yesterday when I got back, and I was just talking about how I'm still at a point where I just don't know, and I don't know what's going to happen. I'm still grieving. I'm still in shock, and my anxiety is like through the roof. But you know what? It's good. And another thing, like
we didn't do that breathing exercise.
Oh yeah.
I got it.
We got to do the breathing
do that.
exercise.
But anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So
to cut you off.
I guess what I don't want to be the theme tonight, but we will. I think it's important to be a man and talk about mental health, and it's okay to get out there and talk, and it's okay to reach out for support from your fellow friends. And it's a lot of thing us men do is we don't express how we feel, and we don't think it's okay to express how we feel.
It's not tough.
It's not cool. It's not
macho.
manly.
Yeah.
But you can't just sit there and eat it your whole life. And the generations before us, that was always the thing. You ate it, you drove on. Otherwise, you weren't a man. You were a fucking pussy, or you're a little bitch. But
there's a part of me, and it's funny because right before you walked in, when I was set up, I was having a conversation with somebody close to me, and that was almost their exact words, what you just said, that nobody ever talks about men's mental health, and if we do, we're seen as weak. You're a pussy. You just take a shot of Jack Daniels. Smack your wife and drive on. That type of bravado, and that's what a lot of men do.
Yep.
And then it bottles up. It bottles up, and then it's like it just builds up and it explodes in different ways, and depending on your personality.
Right.
There's a part of me that is kind of wincing when I say this because I still kind of feel like it's been inbred in me. It's a part of my what I thought was like that's men don't cry and men don't talk about their feelings. That's okay. You know what I mean? So even though I'm exploring that and I'm kind of getting in touch with it, there is a part of me that's kind of like embarrassed even sitting right here and talking about it. And I guess the more I talk to other people like yourself and watch other people, like I watched a lot of other podcasts, and these are guys that are like badasses, like Navy SEAL, Delta, all the cool shit. And they're not embarrassed about it. So I started checking my own ego on that.
Yeah, that's important, and that's a lot of the things that are coming now with new, revelations, and just how there's an open platform for people to talk about this stuff. Like, I guess checking our egos is a huge part of it. And I was just thinking a lot because I learned a lot about my dad's family this week, more than I ever knew. I got my hands on some really cool historical documents. I got my hands on my grandpa's record from World War II, and I learned stories. You get together with the family and like everyone opens up, and death. I hate to say this, I don't know why this is. I wish if we could figure out the key to get people close, regardless of situations like this, then maybe we'll figure out more of how to unite everyone. Period. Because, it brought so much togetherness in our family. And on my dad's side, everyone is tight, but they kind of just go out and do their own thing. But I was able. The one things I took away from this week was a few things. I was able to bond with my uncles, like the more than I ever have in my life on my dad's side, because I lived out west most of my life, and I really got to bond with them, and we all got to be emotional together. We have never had that opportunity before.
Right.
I gave a kind of impromptu eulogy about my dad during the family service, and it touched a lot of people. And I had my cousin Dylan's a really quiet guy, and he came out and he delivered some stuff about my dad that no one expected, and it was flooring because here's a kid that was quiet, and he even said, he's like, I'm the quiet one, but I wouldn't feel right about myself if I didn't say these words. Right. I would regret this for the rest of my life. And he idolized my dad, and you just never know. I guess the point is you never know how much of an impact you make on someone's life, So we can use that to stay connected as well. And when you're going through it, know that you're important to someone else. Yeah. No matter how bad it gets, you never know who might be going on just because of you. Right. And that's what I took away from the family get together, and I got to bond with my nephew and my niece, and they're grown now. We've been apart most of our lives. They're very close to me, but that was just amazing, and my brother-in-law as well. He and I never really had common ground or a chance to do this, but I want to figure out, how to do these things without something like a death. Yeah, it's always, and that's kind of like a mainstay at a funeral or something. It's like, oh, it's a shame we can't do this under different or bring everybody together and feel this way or talk this way. It's always over a tragedy. And what I learned about my grandfather was from my youngest uncle, because my uncle was 9 when my grandfather died. My grandpa fought in Normandy. He was in the 115th Infantry 29th Division. He stormed the beaches of Normandy. He was wounded twice. And he carried the war with him his entire life. He never, from what I understood, he worked, he's blue collar.
Yeah.
They had a house. He had a wife, 5 kids. They weren't like in poverty or anything, but they're living a normal blue collar life in the 50s. And but from what I learned was he never talked about it ever. There were 2 times when he talked about the war. He used to say when he would get really, and he was drunk, like alcoholism killed him. Alcoholism and smoking.
That's probably how he dealt with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And from what my uncle said, we were talking about just how, certain things happen, and especially with my stepmom, because she was in such a poor physical and mental shape, it was kind of almost a relief for her to pass.
Yeah.
And my uncle had mentioned that, he only had memories of his dad hearing him suffer. Like he would hear him, he was dying. My uncle's whole childhood, his dad was dying. Could you imagine?
Wow, yeah.
The only memories you have of your dad, who's this honorable, he was a hardcore dude, and he did amazing things for our entire world. If it weren't for those guys, who knows how the world will be now? It'd be a lot worse than it is.
Yeah.
But his only memories of his father were, hearing him coughing and dying and being sick and always being drunk. But, that hurt him. But I guess the point is my grandpa, he only talked about the war twice, and he would say, get the bullet, Heiser. I guess Heiser, he was a machine gunner, and Heiser was his assistant gunner. I've learned this through family research. It's pretty cool. I'm finding all these documents and all these accounts. And another thing my dad said was when the movie The Longest Day came out in the 50s, he took all the kids to see it. And this is like the only 2 times he talked about the war.
Have I seen that movie?
It's the John Wayne. It's the big 1950s
Hollywood
Hollywood version of
I can't recall
D-Day.
it. Yeah. I'm going to have to go back and rewatch it. I know I've watched it when I was a kid. I'm just trying to recall it. But yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, I'm sure, it's not that known in this generation, but it was a big thing.
82nd. It was about the 82nd Airborne,
It was about
wasn't
all of D-Day,
Okay.
about the British soldiers. There's a famous scene where there's a guy it's a real guy, the guy that was playing the bagpipes when the British soldiers landed.
Oh, wow.
But John Wayne's in it, all the 50s guys, big name. I think it was 50s or 60s. Anyhow, might have been 60s. My dad said when he was a kid, his dad took him all to see that movie in the theater, and that was the second time you heard him talk about the war. When it was over with, my grandpa seemed really distressed, and he just shook his head and he looked down at the kids and he said, "That's not how it really was." And he was really just kind of perturbed that Hollywood made it like this glorious dog and pony,
romantic.
And like, all right, guys, let's go. And now it was, the 29th Infantry Division, which my grandpa was in, they lost they took heavy casualties. Like, there's a company in Virginia. They were all National Guard, Maryland and Virginia. And there's a company in Virginia where the entire company that was from this town, Bedford, they called them the Bedford Boys. I think it was like Company E. I could be mistaken, but anyhow, every guy from that town got killed during Normandy. Wow. And I believe my grandpa's company was something ridiculous, like 60% casualties in Company D.
Yeah.
So, it was
that's crazy. And National Guard unit too. They that was one of the things about the Iraq War with these National Guard units, especially when you're from Arkansas. And they took heavy casualties there early when they first got there, but they're all from the same town. Like, they all go to high school together. They grow up around each other. It's not like I'm from a transient town. I'm from Fayetteville, military town. So people always moving. You have a friend in 5th grade, your best friend, and come back for 6th grade and they're in Germany. Right. And then you don't see him again for 3 years, and now you're 13, 14. Well, a lot happens and changes. Yeah. So you don't know that person anymore. But a small town where everybody kind of grows up together, where you might go to the same kindergarten teacher that was your mom's teacher, and you lose that many people. That fucking hits hard.
There's a beautiful monument to those guys there in Bedford, Virginia. But yeah, that's like, it was very common prior to World War II in America for units like that. Even during the Civil War, you had communities that served together. Yeah. Well, in the initial days, and they had a draft later. But it's just it's trippy, man. And just going through that with people like you said, because it's all the same state. Yeah. So you might have people, even if you're not from the same town, it's still people that are from your area. Everybody knows each other. You might know their families. And
then you come home and you got to face. Yeah, I actually watched a documentary specifically on that, about World War II and the National Guard, like whole towns, like all the men in a town, and the guys that couldn't go. Oh, back then, if you like in World War II, if the Army, the Navy, the Marines, if the Marines wouldn't take you, holy shit. Yeah. But they would commit suicide. Oh yeah. They would not. And that was a big reason. That right there, I heard my grandfather would always, because my grandfather was in World War II as well.
He was in Korea, wasn't he as well?
Well, depending on which grandfather you're talking about. My dad's father was in Korea. And I got 4 grandfathers, because both of my parents come from, broken homes, or however you want to say that, divorced parents.
Very similar.
My mom's biological father, he was in World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. Wow. Her stepfather he was in the Navy. He was in World War II. My dad's father was in Korea.
Okay.
And my dad's stepfather was never in the military. He was a mobster.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was fighting his own war.
Oh, yeah.
But a big part of what drove me into the military, I wouldn't say it was the main thing, but it was a part of it, is I don't know how I would feel standing in front of you right now today if you were there and I wasn't.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So I would hear these stories from my grandfather about guys that killed themselves, and if you couldn't get in, you were like, you felt bad about it, like you weren't a man, and So I always remembered that when I knew there was a war coming. Like I told you, I was signed up to be some pogey ass 25 Victor, and then switched it to 11 Bravo because I knew we were going to go to war after 9/11.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because I get credit for being a 9/11 like Hoa baby, but I had already gone down in like the first MEPS because I was already in the National Guard,
Right.
and I didn't want to go with the National Guard because I was a tanker, so I switched to 11 Bravo Airborne because what was that movie I watched where the guy was like, I figure if I'm gonna go, I might as well go with the best. I think it was by Band of Brothers.
Band of Brothers,
maybe.
yeah. I mean, the interview, right, of the actual vet.
Yeah,
He said,
yeah. And I'd actually just got done reading Inside Delta Force by Eric Haney, but before it came out, like I got to read the actual like director's cut, I guess you would say. I read it in a binder.
How does that because I get the same feeling. Like, for instance, I went to the Army. Plug out there for the new National Museum of the U.S. Army. If you haven't been,
you said that was dope.
Oh man, there's not a lot on display yet because they're still building it, but there's stuff in.
Didn't
there.
you have something to do with the?
Yeah, I helped build the Iraq figures as well, and they have some of my stuff on them for the 2003 guys. But
awesome.
There's stuff in there that's been sitting in the archives with no place. Like, for instance, there's a drawing in there from one of the Native Americans that was a little bighorn. There's a series, you've probably seen them in your history book. They look like they're drawn by a 7-year-old, but it's like hand-drawn sketches of the carnage of Little Bighorn. Wow. And just seeing that in person is so eerie. I believe his name was Red Horse.
What was Little Bighorn?
Custer's Last Stand.
Custer's Last Stand.
Yeah,
okay.
The Annihilation of the 7th Cab, and like it's really cool. They have it set up in different phases of our Army's history. They have like the pre-colonial stuff, and they do a good job of telling the story of our Army, and then it moves on into like the Imperial Age of like Spanish American War, World War I, and then it moves into World War II, and there's a huge section on World War II, and they have a Higgins boat, one of only 6, and that's the landing craft from D-Day. And my point with that is because you were talking about reading that book, seeing stuff that's like my grandfather the guy's actually climbing down the net because the scene is there's a Higgins boat loading, and the guys are climbing down the side of the ship.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know if that's I've seen pictures.
You've seen like down the cargo nets.
Yeah.
And the guys climbing down I believe they're actually 29th guys. Like they've dressed those figures because they have their gas brassards on, so you can't see their patch. What they wore to detect gas.
Right. Okay.
But from what I understood in the notes when we were creating the museum figures, they were supposed to represent 29th Infantry Division guys. And I wanted to ask you, like, how does it make you feel reading a book about your father? And because I had the same thing, like seeing stuff in a museum now that directly pertains to my family and like what my grandpa went through, and like seeing, here's something cool, man. So there's an M1 Garand in there, right? And another thing, if you go to that museum, give yourself like 4 hours because every single artifact in there is like a personal. It's not just like stuff they recreated. It's something that has a lot of history and it has a soldier story behind it.
Where's that at?
It's in Fort Belvoir, near Washington D.C.
Okay.
It's free. It's state of the art. It's brand new. It opened in 2020 during COVID. They did a soft opening, but now it's fully open to the public.
Yeah.
And it's a really beautiful, fitting tribute to the Army. It's very moving. And there's a really good OIF section, and they really did a good job with that as well. They have like IEDs planted in the ground that you can see through, and they have a rhino mount that got hit. Yeah. And everything in there, they have Super 6-1's rotor.
Yeah, I saw that. You sent me the picture.
Everything
of it.
in
Super 6-1 would be the Black Hawk that went down in Mogadishu.
Yeah. They also
when was that? 92, 93?
93.
93. Yeah.
They have an exhibit from the recent rocket attack in 2020.
Huh.
If you remember that, they hit. I believe Iran hit our base with rockets. Remember when all that Iran stuff
was
rampant?
Yeah.
And it killed some soldiers. And like they have a rifle that was melted, and they just have pieces of like the chews and stuff like that. And it's like, wow, man, like this is stuff you don't even really think about, And But that M1 Garand, I'll go back to that. It's really cool because it sat in like an Italian or a French family's, sat in a French family for generations. They found it. And back then you had a service number, which was like a serial number, right? And your gear was attached to that. Like all your gear you were issued was attached to that service number. So this family went holding this rifle for almost 80 years. And finally, they donated, when they found out the museum was opening, they donated it to the museum, and they found out it was a paratrooper in the 82nd. And like they identified the guy off his rifle. He was killed during Normandy.
The serial number?
Yeah.
You know, I've got a, I don't know what it is, an Enfield maybe. I brought it back from Afghanistan, and I was working with a guy in, I think, Nigeria. And he was a history buff, and he was like, "Get me the serial number," because he wanted to track down. He said you can probably find out who carried it, and who had it last, because they kept all these records. But yeah, that's pretty cool, man.
So it's neat, and like I said, it's very profound. I feel, to see something that you can relate to family wise. Like, when your family's played a part in our nation, you know, and I've always held a sense of pride just to be an American, just simply because of that. It's like you look at these things and you look at pictures on the wall, and especially black and white photos, and it's hard to feel a connection to that stuff. You know? Yeah. And it's hard to realize that they were real people, and they weren't just old people in photos. They were just like me and you, you know. They were 20
scared shitless.
Yeah, they were 20-year-old kids, and they did these things, and we're going through a time right now, and we're losing our sense of what it is to be an American.
I tell you what, we're going to find it real quick if you look at what's going on in the world right now. So that scares me. But yeah, man, I being connected, you talking about reading books, you know, when I was a kid, and I'm going to, hopefully we'll get my dad in here soon and sit down, and I don't even know if we can do it in one pod. It'd probably be 5 or 6 podcasts, because his story is like ridiculous. So me reading that and going in, it's almost like the old shoes to fill, like impossible. Like I knew that was impossible, and that's kind of hard. You know what I mean? Because you figure, okay, my old man is like this, I don't know how you want to say it, cool, really cool soldier. He's, you know, just for those of you that don't know, he's one of the original founding members of Delta Force. He's a plank. I guess I don't. I have to ask him if it's fitting to call him a plank holder in the Ranger battalions, because he went to Ranger Battalion in '72 while they were forming
the actual
the
75th
battalion,
Ranger,
the 75th. I don't know. They weren't a regiment yet.
Right.
They were just a battalion. It was there in Savannah, Georgia. What is that? Fort Stewart. He went there, and you know, he was a part. Matter of fact, in his office right over here, he's got the first guidon that flew above. I think he even tried to give that to the museum, and they told him to keep it, you know. Yeah. So he did all that, you know, and just everything else he did was like ridiculous. And you going into it, because I just knew that I wasn't going to be able to fill those shoes. I got to the 82nd. I did infantry. You know, that was because I'm gonna tell you, if you knew me as a kid, I was a fucking pussy when I was a kid. Really? Like, yeah, like I remember being like, I didn't learn how to swim until I was probably 6 or 7 years old. Like my little brother was like doing cannonballs and backflips. He's 2 years younger than me, you know, and I was like hanging on the side of the pool. You know, I had the typical, you know, dad throwing you in the pool and grandma beating his ass, like telling him to leave you alone type of shit. So yeah, that was, when you're trying to, you realize real quick you ain't gonna fill those fucking shoes. Oh yeah. But then there's a lot more to it too. And when he comes in and he sits down, you'll see that his whole career was an accident, damn near. You know what I mean? I don't want to get too far ahead of it, but not an accident like, you know, he lucked into it. But like when he went in, he didn't know what a Ranger was. Right. He was just underage. And they caught him in Shake and Bake school.
Tell me about that, yeah.
Yeah, so rather than kick him out of the Army, because he was like the honor grad at Shake and Bake was an old school where they sent privates to, and you come out in E5 and get you ready to go to Vietnam. So you're sending an NCO. Well, he got popped because he was only 17, but he was going to be 18 in a few months. So they said, hey, go check in with this guy down here, and they gave him directions. And by the time you get done with that school, you'd be 18. We'll send you to Vietnam.
Did your dad go to Nam?
No,
Okay.
no.
So he was lucky actually, because
Yeah.
he
He didn't go
regrets
in
it.
until 69. So by the time you get done with training, it's like 70, 71 time frame. And we were already in the pull out process.
Barely.
Yeah.
Like
And
69, 70 was a hot time.
they weren't sending, at that point, I don't know. He could probably tell the story better. He joined the military to go to Vietnam.
Yeah.
And so, and had he not gotten caught being underage, he probably would have never went to Ranger school, and he probably would have shipped off. And then who knows where I would be, if I would even come into the picture.
See, what man, I still believe this exists. Like, we still, as jacked up as this generation is, and how anti-American we feel, and how they resent everything, even though they don't have a reason to, but they've been told to. That's a whole other podcast in itself. But it still exists, Your dad wanted to go to Vietnam. He joined to go to Vietnam. My grandfather joined after Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
You joined after 9/11.
Yeah.
There's guys that are listening.
I don't want to take the credit for that. I had already been enlisting. I was in the process because I needed to get a job. I went infantry airborne after 9/11. So I don't want to claim that I was sitting on the couch one day and I got all patriotic.
But still, throughout history, here I go again, Brendan the historian. That's just who I am.
Yeah, man.
Nations and the progress of prosperity, I should say, for nations depends solely on that mentality. Everyone always says, "Oh, well, I've heard so many people say, like," and it's fine. I believe in this. Everyone has a purpose in the world. There's different types of people. There's people whose job is to stay home and do things. There's people whose job is to create things. There's people whose job is to bring art to society. But you talk to people who have been like, yeah, well, I've had conversations with people like, it's not my job. Like, I'm not going to go. Well, then whose job is it? Who does it fall on? Does it mean,
Well, you're right. And, that goes back to like caveman days where you had makers and you had the warrior class and you had, guys that were hunters and all that stuff. I think the issue now is, and I've been thinking a lot about this lately. I think the issue is just access to information now. You got it. Like if you don't want to, if you're like me and like you, I believe, I don't watch any of the mainstream media at all. It's all bullshit. But if you get on the Fox News side, if you get on the MSNBC, CNN, or you get on the tinfoil hat conspiracy, whatever it is, you kind of know what's going on. And when you start to look at the government, like with the VA situation that we were talking about a little bit earlier, and all the money and all of the bullshit, it's like, what are you fighting for? You're fighting for them so they can keep. And I think that's where people in this generation kind of feel. Maybe there's a generation that think, oh, America's so bad, it's racist and blah, 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 and all that. But there is a sense of, I don't want, okay, so without getting into a whole, like we're on Fox News Live here, when our government did what they did with the agreement that they had with the former Soviet Union and Russia, they knew this was going to happen. They knew that Russia was going to have to do what they're doing. They all knew that, but they did it anyway. So it's kind of like, you assholes did this, okay? And you knew this was going to happen. This is not like, oh, we didn't know. And I'm not smart enough to remember the agreement. It has something to do with the NATO and the borders and putting, missile systems close to their border.
It was post-World War II stuff, wasn't
it?
No.
No. This is post-Soviet Union. This is the fall of the Soviet Union and the agreement there. Like,
but it leads up to like. The whole reason that happened was because I believe Russia was trying, after World War II, Russia was trying to expand its territory even more.
Well, yeah. But see what they did, they expanded. They had their border reached all the way out to the sea that's there. Yeah. Not the Black Sea, but whatever that sea is there. And we should have a map up there. But then when the Soviet Union collapsed, it went back to like Russia. Mm-hmm. And then you had, instead of being Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, which was all part of the Soviet Union, which was a part of their border, it was their population and their defense border, it shrunk. And now you got Ukraine and you got Czech Republic and you got all these stands that are now independent countries. Okay, so right on their border, Ukraine is right there on their border, and it's an open border. It's a mountainous border. It's not like they could, no one's swimming across the border there, but it's a wide open gap. And so we start entertaining making the Ukraine a part of the UN, which means we can put a military base there. And we can put weapon systems there. We're fucking going up against their border. Now, as an American, do I agree with that? Yeah, maybe. I mean, okay, I'm an American. But when that happens, what are they supposed to do?
Right. Yeah.
So they knew with Putin in power, they knew that when they did away with whatever that agreement was, and they reneged on it, or it expired and they didn't renew it, however it happened, don't crucify me for not, they knew this was going to be the end result. They fucking knew it. So it happened anyway. So now my kids are supposed to go over there and fight, because their kids aren't going.
No.
You know what I mean? Their kids are going to be off in the National Guard somewhere pulling fucking stab duty. It's going to be your kid.
Right.
Because,
or in the Air National Guard.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. And that's
so there's a lot of, my whole point was to that is maybe some of it's not anti-American. It's just the government is, we live in an age where information flows so fast that they're not transparent, and now they don't even care.
Right.
Now they don't even give a fuck. They just wall around the damn, they make a spectacle that was nothing, make it look like it was an actual insurgency, or what they call it, the insurrection. Mm-hmm. They put a wall up and they trade, they get rich. If you see that one thing that I posted since my experience.
Oh yeah.
With it's a comic. It's Sacha Baron Cohen.
Oh,
and he's like, why would America be against dictators?
Yeah.
And you look at that and it's exactly. So I don't want to go. I don't want to go fight that fucking war. Right. With 9/11, at that time I believed that we were under attack. You know what I mean? So I got like, I fell for it just like everybody else.
Everybody did,
Yeah.
We thought we were justified in taking down Iraq.
And that was now I will say this, and anybody that knows me, because I was in the military when we invaded Iraq. I was already in, because that didn't happen until 2003. Yeah. I was on a fucking mountaintop in Afghanistan at OP. Yeah. I might have been at OP Nevada or OP Texas, and they come on the radio every night and give you updates, and they said that we invaded, and at that point I was like, man, that's a bullshit war.
Yeah,
that's just payback. Because why didn't we go in the last time?
Thank you.
And at that time, I had kind of come to realize that we didn't have Kellogg, Brown and Root, and we didn't have all the infrastructure to bring in all these fucking contract civilians.
We did. That stuff actually started during Vietnam. That's when you started seeing the military industrial complex. Well, Civil War even. Look at.
You've always had the contract civilians, but like the Iraq War.
Really?
With cost plus, if you understand how cost plus contracts work, do you understand that? If I say cost plus contract, so typically in a contract, you say, look, I need this done. I need this runway built. Mm-hmm. Okay. How much are you going to charge me to build it? And you come in and you say $5 million. I come in and I say $3 million. This guy comes in $2 million, and we go with the best value. We're going to go with the $3 million, not the cheapest guy, not the most expensive guy. Build the runway. Mm. It may cost you $1 million. You make $1 million. That's a contract, right? That's a competitive contract. A cost plus contract is, Brennan, since we do this podcast together, I'm in charge of handing out these contracts. I need you to build 5 airstrips, and I'm going to give it to you cost plus. That means you don't have to submit a bid for how much it's going to cost. You make your money based on how much of my money you spend. So the more of my money that you spend, the more money you make. Okay? And when that came into existence, now I say this with firsthand knowledge, because I was a contractor in Iraq. In my later years as a contractor, I was an actual contractor. I wasn't the fucking guy with the gun anymore running around the streets. I was actually in the office dealing with contract officers and all of that. Never on the level of billions and billions of dollars, but you hang out in that circle, you kind of get to know what's going on. So that's why chow halls went from tents to fucking Baskin Robbins. You had every ethnicity there, Indian line, taco line. There was fucking 50 plasma screen TVs in there.
Yeah, chow halls in Iraq were some of the best chow halls I've ever been to in my life.
Because KBR had a cost plus contract. The more taxpayer money, their profit was in how much. So we could save the American taxpayer, a couple $1 billion if we just do it at this price and not do all this. Just do what we need to do. And fuck that.
Yeah, that's insane.
Let's spend $80 billion. I think the war on terror cost a total of $7 trillion.
Something ridiculous.
$7 trillion.
$7 trillion, yeah.
And within the last the audit, I don't know if it's done yearly or bi-yearly or every 4 years. Pentagon, they cannot account for $9 trillion fucking dollars, bro. $9 trillion fucking dollars. $9 trillion. Do you know how much fucking money that is? And they just don't know where it went.
And another thing too is like I just talked about, is this part of just how the modern world has gone? I think
Yeah.
so. You know, that's just the reality of it. We still have to like stand for our country because this is what we have.
Yeah. And
Where does it go? That's what my question is, like, because I still firmly believe, and I'll always believe, that there's something worth fighting for regardless. You have to stand up for things. There always is going to have to be someone that's going to have to go and do the dirty work of the people they represent in a nation and civilization.
but who are you doing it for?
I mean, we know who we're doing
Who are
it
you
for.
doing it for?
Yeah, I know. Not doing it for ourselves.
Did any, and I'm going to say this and I always say I was there, whether or not I was a big bad hero, whether or not I killed 85 people, I was there, so I can say what I want about the situation. Kind of like people say, well, you didn't vote, so you don't have no right to complain. That type of mentality, which I don't agree with, but I'm going to use that here. Did any of our brothers over there die for the freedoms of anybody back home?
Absolutely not.
You see what I'm
saying?
saying?
Yeah, true. But did they die because of...
Now, if you wanted to be there, like I know
Yeah.
some guys that just wanted to be there.
Right.
They don't care what the politics are.
Right.
Most of your fucking like hardcore, like badass soldiers, all the way up DevGru, Delta Force, Special Forces, top tier infantry, Marine Recon, Air Force, all that, all the cool shit they have. They don't care about the politics. They just want for them, the action is like the juice.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe they sell themselves a little bit on the patriot part of it, but really they just get off on being an operator, and that's cool. Yeah. I'm all about that. That's kind of like, I wouldn't say that my drive to be in the military was that, because I didn't do that, but just to go just to combat.
Yeah. Just that they're born with that that hunter warrior instinct that we've had for thousands of years.
Yeah. And you got to give them an outlet.
Yeah,
because there's only so many people can play professional football.
Something about Iraq, though, and this is just funny. I'm always the devil's advocate, but dude, just as many pogues were killed in Iraq and Afghanistan as DevGru and badasses.
When I asked you about the fucking, probably more.
Yeah.
When I asked you, I didn't say how many cool fucking guys. I just said how many of our brothers, how many of our.
Oh, right.
When I say brothers, sisters. I mean just soldiers.
Yeah.
How about just fellow human beings that died over there?
Oh, and think of the Iraqis and Afghanis.
And I'm gonna tell you right now, the type of work that I did over there, I was very entrenched with Iraqis as a contractor. In this picture right here, you'll notice that a good 70%, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of the 7 people in that picture are Iraqi nationals. I lived with them. I got to know them, not just them, but just in the whole company as a whole. And they would have took Saddam Hussein back in a second.
Oh yeah. That's a rough one right there.
Yeah.
Because in the beginning, yes, next month, if we look 20 years back.
20 fucking years.
The Baghdadis were it was confusion and it was elation at the same time. People were relieved because they could finally come out and live. But at the same time, that's a big argument,
Well, what they did was,
we all know
Iraq already had a government, right?
Right.
So all we had to do, if we really wanted to help them out, we just take Saddam out of the picture, and then we let them figure out who's going to be their president.
And that couldn't happen.
We dismantled the entire fucking government. We sent everybody home. So these guys that were generals, majors, colonels, these are powerful people.
And these are a tribal society too.
Yeah.
Remember, that's not Democrat, Republican. It's like
whatever
20 more different secular tribes who are
So a guy
competing.
might be a general, but he's also the sheikh of a tribe of people. So he goes home and he sits there and he waits. He waits for the government to call him and say, okay. So he gets a letter from Uncle Sam, probably, I would say the end of 2003. They all get a letter inviting them to re-enlist in the new Iraqi army as fucking privates.
Yeah.
If I'm a goddamn general and I've got my own fucking army, you just came into my... Now, again, I'm not supporting like, oh yeah, I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
Right.
You invite me to come in as a fucking private. I'm a general. I'm a sheikh. And I'm an Arab, and I'm proud. And you got, in Iraq, you're dealing with Sunni, you're dealing with Shia, you're dealing with the Assyrian Christians, you're dealing with Kurds. The Kurds have their own border, they're their own country. But
the Kurds are, I like the Kurds.
Yeah, no, I like them. I mean, there wasn't an Iraqi sect like, oh, I didn't like the Sunnis. I worked with them all, and I liked them all. They all were all unique. But what we did was we designed the system to fail.
Yeah.
And there's a movie that hit the... must be clicking. There's a movie with, I think it was Matt Damon, when he's like a CIA guy or he's a soldier or a warrant officer. When he walks out, when the guy who's playing Paul Bremer walks out and all the Iraqis are around the table arguing with each other, because the Sunnis think differently than the Shia. The Shia want to do, you know, the Sunnis they're the minority, but they had the power under Saddam. You know, the Kurds want their own fucking country. The Assyrians are like a small group of people. There's even Jews there, you know, and they all pretty much get along. Yeah. You know, they all live together. But we designed this system to fail. Meanwhile, we're hacking up all the oil field contracts. No American company's getting them, but come on, man. Yeah. You know how easy it is? You know how easy it is for me if I was a bigwig. Yeah. Okay. All I do is I'm in the oil business. I can't own an oil company and operate in Iraq. So I just go to my British homie and say, hey, look, start a fucking company. You know, I'm going to fucking fix it up all over here. Yep. You're going to get the contract, but it's really me that's getting it, and we're going to pay you to just be the face. And that is not a conspiracy theory. No. That is a legal way of doing business. Right. And it's if I wasn't scared about getting sued, I could name names on a major contract in Iraq, but I'm not going to do that, you know. Right. I'm not going to fuck with that guy's livelihood. The guy was getting paid some good money just to fucking walk around, you know?
That leads us into a very good topic for tonight on the board, which is the newly formed alliance.
Holy shit.
Between
nobody.
Take it away, buddy.
Nobody. I looked and I looked and I looked. I spent more time looking for news articles than to actually delve into, because I'm not that guy. I'm not going to delve in and read the peace treaty. I'm just going to say, you tell me there's a peace treaty and they're shaking hands, I'm going to assume that all those 5,000 words make sense. There's a peace treaty. But Saudi Arabia and Iran have signed a peace treaty. Okay? You're talking about the most dominant Shia militant arm of whatever you want to call it, Hezbollah, all your Hezbollah, all of your PLO, all of your whoever's in Lebanon. Iran backs most of the, if not all of the terrorism in Iraq.
Yes.
Okay.
Saudi as well.
Hardcore fucking Shia Muslims. Mm-hmm. The Saudis, hardcore fucking Sunni Muslims, okay? And the Sunnis are some fucking crazy motherfuckers. I think they call them like Wahhabis or something. They're just hardcore, which is why like it was a big deal a few years ago that, oh, women can drive now, you know? Human rights violations, all that, we don't care because that's where the oil comes from. You know what the deal we made with them.
And you know most of the IEDs that we faced were all funded by these primary powers.
Osama bin Laden, Saudi. You know,
Saudis are big players, man.
So they've got a peace agreement now, which is crazy because when we think of peace in the Middle East, we think Israel and the Palestinians, right? Which is a part of it, but majorly, on the grand scale, it's the Sunnis and the Shias and Saudi Arabia versus Iran. Well, they made some peace deal brokered by China 4 days ago, 4 or 5 days ago. Okay, China is moving into the South China Sea. I think that's where Taiwan's at. Yep. They're poised to take over. So now you've got India, you've got Iran, you've got Saudi Arabia, you've got China, and you've got Russia all forming. What does this fucking sound like?
Sounds like we're fucked.
Sound anything like the Warsaw Pact?
Ooh.
Yeah. And I'm going to tell you right now, back then, I think we were more equipped to fight a world war back then because our enemies, I guess you would say, what are you going to call them, our adversaries, they weren't as equipped as we were. Right. Hey, man, China's got some money. Yeah. Russia has a lot of money. Their problem is they're corrupt. So, like, the main general, like, I was listening to a guy talk about this, but Putin is tied to certain people he just can't get rid of. Yes, he's got to kill them if he's going to get rid of them, but they're basically skimming like 60% of the war funds. But they have the means, the money. You've got the Saudis got a lot of money. The Iranians, believe it or not, got a lot of money. And they just found the world's largest lithium deposit on the planet.
And now that's the next big thing. It's not oil anymore. It's lithium.
Lithium.
You know, the batteries.
Yeah, because that's an actual like depletable, like everybody, they had us sold on oil being a depletable resource, and it's not. It was a lie. It's not a fossil fuel. It's a renewable. but that's a whole fucking another line of, going back to the Geneva Convention in like 1908 or something like that. Lithium and cobalt. You want electric cars? Everybody out there wants electric cars. Okay, cool. I think it'd be great if I had an electric car. I wouldn't have to buy gas anymore. But your phone and all that, it's all fucking conflict. They call them conflict minerals because what's going on around them. Especially, I think I touched on one of our podcasts. What the fuck's going on in the Congo? Like, what's going on in the Congo right now is some of the worst slavery, humanitarian crisis in the history of the fucking planet. Crickets. And nobody gives a fuck.
Nope. People are too wrapped up in, fucking let's cancel this, let's cancel that. Or
they're looking at spy balloons.
Yeah.
Look at the balloons, and this fucking alien distraction. Like, it's almost like the worst. Like, if you would have made a movie about this 20 years ago, and I think a guy actually did like 30 years ago called Idiocracy. About the people, but
it's now.
We're looking at it. There's a siren.
There's Fayetteville.
Yeah. I tell you what, let's take a little break so I can piss because I've got to piss like a racehorse. I don't even know how long we've been going for.
I was going to ask you too. We're on some. This is a good subject though.
Yeah. We'll stay on it. Just don't forget. Mark off where we were at. When we come back, we'll hit on it.
All right. Cool. And cut. Check.
Yeah. 5 seconds.
All right.
Okay. All right. We're back.
So let's talk about who's your pick for World War III. What teams and why do you think it's going to be? Because I've got my own.
Oh man, I think it's gonna be the United States, along with Grenada, Belize.
Oh, South America,
Georgia. They're like small shitty countries.
You think England and Europe?
Yeah, England's always going to roll with us because we are actually. If you really want to get into it with me, we are England. You know what I mean? Yeah. We are the fucking Roman Empire.
I've been thinking about this lately. With all the stuff with, the BLM movement and how it's reached worldwide, I feel like our country has been painted as the evil country in this modern. Everyone hates America anyhow, but
always have.
I think they've been trying to paint us as like 1930s Germany. So I see if this war that's going to come, I really see America being kind of like, I hate to say it, but like we're going to be considered the Axis. Axis
powers.
And
on that side of things, for sure. It's easy. It's easy to do.
As shitbag as Russia and Iran are with human rights, and everyone's against Putin now, and everyone's on Ukraine's side. I really see a shift in like when we look back at this war 50 years from now, just like we look back at World War II, it's going to be like.
But if you look at World War II, even when you dissect World War II, like if you just look at World War II, okay, Hitler was a bad guy, he had to go. Mm-hmm. Okay. But if you even look at what was going on before, like how America was involved and how American businesses were actually charged with trading with the enemies, like Prescott Bush and all them, the fuel additive, the fuel additive that, the whole Luftwaffe, is that how you say it? The German Air Force with the new planes they had, their new technology of their turbine engines or whatever the fuck propellers couldn't run without a special fuel additive that only Standard Oil was putting out. And, so if you look at all of that, it was still bad. That had to stop. I don't know how it's going to look in the future. You just look at this country here, and you've got fascists calling you a fascist.
Right.
You know what I mean? They don't know. Right. They don't know what it means.
It's a cool term. What's really? Wonder which way Mexico is going to go.
They're going to go with us.
You think so?
But I don't think so. Are they even a fucking ally?
No, fuck.
You know what I mean? Are they really going to help?
If you were Mexico, would you go with us? Fuck no, I wouldn't.
It all depends on who came in at the final hour. What are you going to offer me?
True.
Because you got to remember, we really get serious, and Mexico is the United States. I mean, if we really want it. I think Mexico only exists because American business needs it to exist. You see what I'm saying? If it was more beneficial for American business, like the billionaires, for Mexico to be a state in the American United States, it would be overnight. Yeah. If I'm a businessman, it's in my best interest. Mexicans cannot build the Fords and buy them. You see what I'm saying? They can build them because I can pay them cheap money and don't have to go through all the fucking OSHA regulations. None of my business. It's in Mexico. Mm-hmm. But they can't buy them. So they need us to buy them. So they created this market. You see, it's. I mean, if you just take your hat off and put on I'm a billionaire, I'm the monopoly man now, and start thinking like that. Yeah. You're not like, oh, I'm gonna go buy a fucking big screen TV and buy a fucking McLaren. I mean, like generational wealth. You can't spend the money you've earned. You know what I mean? You start thinking like that, it becomes more about power shifts. And Mexico, in its state, the way we need that labor coming across the border. We need it.
Yeah, we do. We rely on it.
If you were to,
they keep it just legal. It's just, there's just that line where they won't,
It's just enough for politicians to keep you fighting me.
Oh, another thing. You heard about what happened with the 4 Americans that went into Mexico and were killed by the cartel?
Yeah, on accident, yeah.
On accident, yeah.
The cartel actually dropped off. They killed one, they dropped the others off, and they sent out an apology.
3, or 2. 2 of the 4.
2 of them.
4.
Yeah. They were going to get booty lifts or something, weren't they?
Well,
like
one
boobs?
was, they were just, and they were black, they were African Americans, and I believe one of them was, the Mexican cartel thought that they were Haitians that were moving in on territory. This is what who knows what the truth is. This is what the media says. And they ambushed them and they killed 2 outright, kidnapped the other 2. And the woman was just going to get cosmetic surgery done. They were, the media was trying to paint them as drug dealers. They were just people on vacation. And it's
Pause. I've got to turn that heat off. I'm not going to stop the camera.
Like, that's, to me, see, there's weird things going on in the world. Like, for instance, if 4 citizens from another country came to the U.S., these are just like, I want to know this too. It points out the players in the world. Like, where's the fucking outrage on that? Like, it seems like, for instance, if 4 Americans went to Russia and the fucking Russians kidnapped and killed them.
That happens all the time, though.
Does it?
Yeah.
I guess.
The only reason why you're hearing about what happened in Mexico is because they're trying to they're trying to spawn. It kind of goes back to one of Donald Trump's speeches that he made before a couple weeks ago, where he basically insinuated that if he becomes president, the cartels are going to be classified as like terrorists.
Oh man.
Which, and the cartels are listening to that. They're like, wait a minute, if this motherfucker sends in, they come in, that means we're going to, with maybe Mexico's help, maybe not. He didn't specify. He just said if they can't get it under control, he's going to classify it, and that's his new thing. That's the new Al-Qaeda. We got to have a fucking enemy, right?
Yeah.
So that's like the new Al-Qaeda, and it's just right over our border. And as badass as I wouldn't say that they're, I'm not saying they're cool or anything or like they're heroes.
Cartel's on it, man.
But they're on it. They fight.
They
fight and they fucking die. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They take on the government there. It's like, that'd be like me and you deciding that we're going to traffic vice in Fayetteville,
right,
and decide that we're doing it. And if you come to try to stop us, like you send your fucking cops, we're going to kill them. If you send in your military, we're going to be fighting.
And those guys move, they have weight in the entire world with governments too, like,
because they're billionaires.
They are. They're multi-billionaires.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't there more revenue in like drugs in the world than there is in legitimate business?
Yeah.
We'll have to look that number up, but like with cartel revenue is more.
Well, it's more than like, say, oil.
And that's another thing too. These guys are so hardcore. Like, you ever hear the instances? There's been instances of like famous TikTokers in Mexico go talking about the cartel on air, and next thing you know, they're hanging from a bridge.
Yeah. Well, you know what they even have a whole thing in I think they call it narco couture.
Culture. Yeah.
But it's like a music. And if you
narco, that's been around since the 80s.
Yeah, and you hear
80s,
like
90s.
this mariachi type music, and then you
That's the most
translate
gangster
it.
shit ever,
It's
dude.
like some gangster.
You want to listen
rap.
to some real gangster music, dude? Fuck anything, on the radio. Listen to fucking Chileno Sanchez, dude.
Yeah.
That's some real
or
gangster
Commander.
shit.
There's a guy named Commander, and I like.
Well, dude, Chileno Sanchez, man, like he's one. I actually, growing up in California, and like I grew up in a very Mexican American community, and like when I'm really on one and I want to be in a fucking mode, like fuck everyone, Chileno Sanchez, dude. Chileno Sanchez was one.
Is it in Spanish?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But he was one of the original.
Stop beating your hand on the desk.
He was one of the original narco corrido is what it's called.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
And you know how this guy died? So he played in one of the rival gang provinces, right? And there's actually video footage on YouTube. Like these are all songs about cartel, right? It's about what they do. And he went and he played, and he was told not to sing this song about the rival cartel.
Right.
Like it was a song against the rival cartel. And he sang it anyhow. And like someone passed him a note on stage that said like, "You're fucked, dude, if you sing this song." And you can see the moment. He's like, "Well, let's do it." And he did it, and he got killed that night.
Yeah.
That's just...
Well, I know cops,
like
the Mexican police listen to the radio station because after something goes down, someone, like, they'll commission a song be made about that shootout, or that so-and-so was a snitch, so we had to take him out, and they'll tell a guy, write this song. And so the Mexican police will listen to the radio and be like, "Oh shit, they know what happened."
So, yeah. These cartels,
but the cartels don't give a fuck.
No, they don't give a fuck, dude. They have
and here's another thing:
artists that write songs for them. Yeah.
Let's take out the let's take out the soldiers.
Yeah.
Sicarios. The bosses are billionaires.
Oh yeah.
So when you're a billionaire, man, that puts you in a different playing field. They're not billionaires sitting off in the jungle.
Right.
You know, with those billionaires, there's fucking lawyers. You know, there's all types of legitimate business. And they're involved with what could be considered legitimate business in America. You know, you watch these TV shows, and one of them that I watched, and I don't know if you watched Ozark.
Heard about Ozark.
Okay, well, in Ozark, they make a deal with a U.S. pharmaceutical company to buy heroin because, you know, whatever happened with their legitimate supply was cut off or something happened, so they had to. That shit happened. Where do you think the pharmaceutical company gets the heroin from? You think they're buying it from you and me? The heroin?
Well, it's opium. It's heroin, yeah. And
but who do you think's farming it, and who controls the trade? No. Well, that's like 80% of it. And is it any coincidence to anybody that we didn't have a opioid epidemic or problem in America until well after the Afghan war, and we never shut down production of opium? Because I've got pictures of standing up on a OP and just in the valley. I think it was in Peshawar Valley, maybe that's what it's called, if I remember correctly. It's miles and miles and miles of fucking opium flowers. And we raided a village one time, and we found the raw opium, wrapped up in the leaves the way they do. And I didn't know because I'm fucking, you know, just a soldier. But like my first sergeant, everybody thought we were confiscating this shit. Oh, yeah. And the fucking cool guys came in, the civilian clothes and Oakley glasses, like, nah, they get to keep that. And we're like, oh shit. And I remember, funny story, I was like, man, this fucking street value on this has got to be worth a lot of money. And I put it in my fucking cargo pocket. But then something happened, because normally we would go in, we would do this cordon and search, you know, we'd secure it, and then the cool guys would come in and do their thing. And then we'd get on trucks and go home. But we got fragoed or something, and we were walking where I wasn't planning on walking, you know. So as I'm walking, this fucking ball of opium is like and I'm sweating because it's hot, and I'm start worrying about it seeping into so I picked it up and I threw it out. I still had those DCUs. Can raw opium do that to you? I don't know anything about it. Yeah,
it's
smoke it.
It's trippy.
No,
yeah,
these people smoke it.
It's just crazy.
I'm sure that if it gets in your pores or something, I don't know. I knew that I didn't want to be fucked up. You know,
your point about how there's so much media and just so much information now, like, you're right. The average person, the average 6-year-old has more knowledge than the average medieval peasant had in their entire... The
average 12-year-old has more knowledge than my grandfather had prior to signing up to go to World War II.
The average 12-year-old has more knowledge than a fucking king in the Middle Ages. Yeah. You know?
Well, I'm just saying, so insane. You got to kind of put that into context. Like, I think about that, because here we are, I'm watching this... We're watching this, and if you pay attention, whatever happened in Russia, because that's when he took Crimea the first time. You know what I mean? You remember when Obama was president, he invaded, took over a part of the Ukraine, and never gave it back.
Yep.
You see what I'm saying? So that was kind of like a warning, and he has to do it. If you're Vladimir Putin, or if you're in charge of Russia, unless you want to be a lapdog, you know, and be like a puppet nation, you have to do it. Mm-hmm. And another thing is the fucking petrodollar. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? Like, if you start looking at it like petrodollar, and you look at the companies that resisted it, well, Libya, Iraq, you know what I mean? Libya's gone. They're done.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
What even is Libya
So
anymore?
You can look at all this, but then you look in your own backyard and you say, the Pentagon can't find $9 trillion. They can't tell us, the people that supposedly run this country, you know, for us, by us, But meanwhile, for a
FUBU.
fucking
That should be the next American flag should just say fucking FUBU.
yeah,
That's what it needs to say.
it's fuck you is what it really should say, because you
fuck
got
you.
soldiers out there trying to get fucking a measly $3,000, $4,000 a month in disability money that's already been allocated to them,
and we can't.
They have to fight for it, and every step of the fucking way is months.
Yep.
It's not like, oh, I got to take an afternoon off. I just got denied on a fucking claim because of a clerical error. Okay, a clerical. There's a word. There's a name on my paperwork that was put there in 2013. But I didn't. Well, it was my responsibility to update it. Well, I ain't got time to navigate your fucking 50,000 page. Why can't? Okay, this is denied based on this. I'm telling you, that's not correct anymore. That's like 10 years old. Well, you got to do this. Well, how long is that going to take? Well, we can look at it in 3 months.
I'm going to straight up say it, man, just because I've dealt with the VA a lot. And I don't give a fuck if the VA is listening.
Fuck them.
The VA is designed to fucking fail. It is designed to kill us because...
You got more experience to say that than me, so I'll let you talk about that.
They're trying to make... I mean, I can't... Okay, the VA has taken care of me, but, you know, we're talking about, like, you have an issue, all right? You have an issue. Let's say you have a bump on your leg, okay? You might have stage 4 cancer.
Yeah.
All right? You won't be seen for 6 to 7 months.
Crazy.
Okay? Yeah. And like you said, it's money that's already, like, every soldier who signs the dotted line has a full 100% retirement already allocated.
Say that again and slow that down so people can understand what that means.
Every soldier who has ever served in the modern military, I don't know when this was all.
Let's just say it started in 1985.
Yeah. Whenever the whole VA disability rating was developed, right? And it actually goes back to the Civil War, because every soldier who fought and had issues from the war was given a pension, and their widows could apply for the pension. Only problem is they didn't come up with the pension system until later, and a lot of these guys, you know what's really crazy? I'm gonna tell you something. If you look at America in the 1870s, 1880s, you'll see a lot of Civil War veterans that have 30-year-old wives. These fucking 7-year-old dudes have like 30, 40-year-old young wives. Yeah. Because the government starts handing out pensions to guys who served, and their wives are eligible as well. I mean, it's not a bad deal.
So it's like gaming the system. Like,
but still,
yeah.
Like, fucking why not? Yeah. You know, we're talking about a government.
Well, no, this is the thing, though. I have sat across from people that will basically say, if you're a fucking veteran and you're trying to get 100% disability, you are scamming the system. Of shit. You are looking for a handout and you're looking for an entitlement. But based on what you just said, that money has already been taken from you.
Yep.
It's already, so where is it going? Yeah. Now, if you tell me, if you have a department and you have a fucking news agency and you have this whole thing where I can go on and see where the remaining 20% of my disability is going, and you can show me that it's feeding some family in Africa, hey, I'll shut the fuck up. Yeah. Or if it's going to rearm the troops, buy new battleships, it's not.
But it's not. Because
all that money's new. We all know, if you've been in the military once a year, you fucking have to shoot ammunition. And a lot of times that shit gets dumped in the woods, thrown away. They take boats, brand new motors, brand new vehicles, and they dump them off the fucking shore to make fish attractants, because if they don't use that equipment, the government auditors are going to say, well, you still have 2,000 LMTVs. We don't need to give you money for 2,000 more. And no, they're destroyed. They're off the books.
You remember this too. You remember your unit at the end of the fiscal year was like trying to spend money like crazy.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So we would go to the range with 20,000 rounds and 5 guys. Like, you know how much weapons maintenance that is? I'm not shooting all this shit.
I've never ever. This must be just how our government works. Because like I remember in the Army, I've never been in an organization where, when it comes to the end of the budget, you have to fucking spend more money. Otherwise, you won't get more money.
Yeah, because if I give you $1,000, let's say that I gave you $1,000 a month for you to live in for your family, and then every year I'm going to evaluate that, and you come to me and you say, no, I need $1,500 this year. Yeah. Okay, well, let me see what you spent. And if I look at your books and say, out of the $1,000 that I gave you, you still have $500 left.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to go ahead and give you $1,000, and then you're going to have $1,500.
Yeah.
No, you're going to spend every fucking dime, and then year by year, you're going to want more and more. somebody, please, maybe I'll fucking think about this later, and I'll when I edit this and everything and post it, I'll put a yes or a no. Has the defense budget ever gone down?
No.
Have we ever spent less money?
Nope.
Does it go up every year?
Right. And that's another thing too.
So let's stay on that for a second though. So here you've got fucking guys that have got recent. We all know 20 years. We know guys that have been to fucking 5 or 6 deployments. Even if you did 1 deployment, okay. But guys that did 7, 8.
Real quick, if we have any active listeners or any military listeners who were part of the GWAT generation, please comment. I want to know, like, what's the average number of deployments now for us for an active duty soldier who was in the global war on terror? I think it's like 5 to 7 deployments.
I would say 5 easy.
At least.
If you did 20 years starting in, say, 2000,
the
2000 and you figure you go for, because it's a year-long deployment. You
5
go a year.
Fucking deployments, man.
Or more.
That's the Civil War.
But what about special ops guys? Special ops guys, they do shorter deployments, they do more.
Let's put this in perspective for the average American who's not. So we're talking about the guys in our generation, all right? If you served, Buddy's got, I keep hitting the desk. If you served from 2002, all right, because that's when Afghanistan started, to, we'll say 2018, all right, because that's when, like, Iraq.
How many years is that, 20? No.
Yeah, well, if you served 20
16 years,
we'll say 2000 to 2020, all right? You served, if you deployed and you did, like, more than 3 deployments, all right, you fought the entire Civil War.
Yeah.
You fought World War II, World War I, Vietnam.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
And then you have a problem with the VA not paying you the money that has already been allocated.
And it's not like it's $100,000 a month.
Right.
It's 3. What is it now? 100% disability. It's like 3,900 with no dependents.
With dependents, even with dependents, fuck, man.
It's like $100 per dependent.
I'll just be honest. My VA now, because it got bumped up, it also reflects the cost of living now.
Yeah.
All right. It would have been great fucking 5 years ago to have what I have now. I have 3 kids and a wife. All right. I'm 100%.
And you're retired too,
right.
though. Yeah.
No. I don't get my retirement. I didn't do 20 years.
I thought medical retired means you got retirement. Okay, my bad.
I did over 15, so I'm a unique case. All right. I did over 15, so I have retirement benefits.
Gotcha.
I have a retiree ID card.
Yeah.
I have, TRICARE. I can go on base. I'm eligible for anything a retiree is eligible, but I do not receive my Army retirement pay.
Oh, I didn't know
because
that.
I'm under 20 years. That's another fucking thing that's bullshit, dude. So I did over 15, but I'm under 20. So I get my disability. That's all I get. Now, 100. This is to help anyone out there who's struggling with this, and just to let you know, okay? And this is bullshit, America. This is fucking bullshit. All right. When you are medically disabled and medically retired from the Army, it is because you are unable to do your job. All right.
Yeah.
So technically, the Army expects you to work a civilian job. All right. But
what kind of civilian job is an infantryman going to do that can't do an infantry? If you can't be an infantryman in the U.S. Army, and you've been doing it since you were 18, what the fuck are you going to go to college and be a brain surgeon at 40?
How awesome is this? So someone who, for instance, let's say someone who is a double, or let's say they're a fucking paraplegic, like we'll say double amputee, all right? A double amputee who has severe PTSD, all right, and gets med boarded, all right? They're not, most of them, there's a lot of guys who didn't do even over 15 years, so they're not going to get their military retirements. They're not going to get their Army retirement pension, okay? The government is going to pay them. Basically, if you look at how much it is, even with dependents, it's right under the poverty level line.
Yeah.
For the average American.
Yeah, it's crazy.
How the fuck are you supposed to?
And the reason is, and there are some people, when I say it's only $3,900 a month, and they're like, oh, that's good money. No, it's fucking not. I'm sorry that you work 40 hours a week.
Yeah.
And you don't get no overtime and you make less than that. But that's a fucking problem.
Right.
And the richest, this is where people are like, oh, now you sound like a socialist. No, man, I'm just keeping it real, okay? Yeah. If you earn $100,000 a year, you are in the fucking top 3% of earners in this country, okay? 1% of this country owns more fucking wealth than 60% of this country. That means if you take 60% of the people and you combine all their wealth, all their assets, all their money, all the shit, 60%, and you add it all up and you make one number, I think it's actually, I may be wrong, it may be 0.5% own more wealth than them. Now, could it be that those people made better? Yeah, I'm not anti-capitalism, but at that point, your government needs to do more than shell out pittance. Yeah. It's a pittance. What does it take to fucking live a decent life in North Carolina, where the fucking cost of living is relatively low? I'm gonna tell you right now,
it's starting to go up.
I'm gonna tell you right now, $10,000 a month. $10,000 a month is not enough.
Really?
It's not enough. It is not enough. Shit. No, because I don't know the difference between making. I can't tell the difference between making $40,000 a year and $150,000 a year. I can't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's all the same. It doesn't. Now I make over $100,000 a year,
right.
And I don't even fucking, you know me.
Yeah.
I work hard when I work, but I'm not, if I say, let's go surfing, we're surfing twice a week.
Right.
That's an all day thing.
Yeah.
You know, I've got time to sit here and do this. You know, I get done with my work around noon every day by design, and I can still make over six figures. It's not hard. If I really, like friends of mine that they fucking hustle, they make a killing, bro. They're making like $200,000-$300,000 a year.
Yeah.
It's not, so the average American is not able, 97% of, I don't even the average American, 97% of America has not figured out how to make $100,000 a year. And that is a fucking failure on our part as a society, because it's really not that hard.
Yeah.
We're just so used to being accepting, and okay, I'm going to make $20 an hour. Okay.
Let me ask your opinion on this, because I brought this up. You know, I posted this. I was having a real hard time just dealing with, you know, life when I first got out. And I was like, this is not fucking right, man. Like the average, okay. Now there's people, you know, we've talked about the vet victim mentality, but you know, and I believe this thing about firefighters as well. My uncles are firefighters, and I was talking to my uncle. A lot of them suffer the same ailments that we do, with back issues, and they have mental issues from seeing death and violence and seeing.
Why are they so low paid?
Like, what do you think? Buddy Feeney? I'm asking you as Buddy Feeney. All right, is it all right if I said your name?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's on the fucking.
Do you? Because I've had my friends say, "Fucking no, a disabled vet does not need to make a livable amount. That's bullshit. Like 60,000 is plenty. We don't even make 60,000. Like I think if you look at like now, if I exclude my wife's income, and she makes fucking minimum, like if she's on herself, by herself, I'll just put it to you this way, by herself she makes below 25,000 a year. Okay, now us combined,
and she works every day.
Yeah, well except for the weekends, but still she works 8 hours a day.
That's what I'm saying.
40 hours a week. All right, us combined,
working full time to be poor.
Right. Us combined puts us right over the 70,000 threshold, but it still doesn't seem like it's enough. You're right.
It's not.
Me on my own, I'm only in the 40. I'm below 45,000, and that's 100% permanent in total, with fucking 15 years of service plus. And it's not like, what do you think is a fair amount that a disabled vet should make? Do you think that a disabled veteran who is actually disabled should make enough for a livable wage, as far as like, do you think it should be above $60,000?
I think that this is my opinion. Yeah. And I don't, I'm not trying to debate this, or I'm not trying to sell this as a policy, but I think that any veteran that goes to war, okay,
that's a big one too. Yeah.
If you go to war, when you get out, you should be paid a above livable wage.
Right.
Okay.
I agree.
You should be made to be middle class at a minimum. Okay. Not the poverty line. Okay. If you go and I know there's a lot of guys that did 20 years, but they never went to war. I'm sorry. I'm just not in your camp. You trained for 20 years. Good job. And I'm not taking anything away from you, but you didn't go to war. Going to war is different. It kind of changes you. Shit happens. You see some shit. Yeah, I know your buddy might have died in a parachute accident in training, but it's not the same. Okay. And again, this is my opinion. If you go to combat, you should be made to be middle class. And right now, in my opinion, I would say that $10,000 a month is poor. It's poor. Because let's think about it in terms of the 1950s, okay? America's largest employer at that time was General Motors, okay? General Motors on average paid their employees $5 an hour. Now, in 1958, $5 was a lot of fucking money.
Yeah.
In 1965, $5 was a lot of money. So if you were working 40 hours a week and getting overtime, you were making a lot of fucking money. I would say that $5 in 1965 is probably equivalent to, shit, I would have said 50, but maybe 75 in today's terms. So a general fucking auto worker going to work in a plant, there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
Okay? We need that.
Yeah.
And some guys, they have to do that. That's just, they can't. That's their mind is shift work. I go to work, I do my job, and they're happy. They come home, but you can't do that nowadays. And in the 50s and 60s, you could. And one man could work in a factory and have 5 kids, and his wife could stay home all day and go fucking crazy because she was so spoiled because she had everything. They had to give her Xanax because she had a toaster and she had a TV and she had all this stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. But what does that breed? What happened in the late 60s?
The fucking revolution.
All the kids went to college.
That's true. Yeah.
Desegregation. Now all of a sudden you're allowing Black Americans into the fold, and I don't say that like, oh, we should go back to that, but they're now for the first time in history a part of the conversation in a forceful way.
Yeah.
It's no more like we shall overcome. You got guys like Malcolm X saying "fuck you, honky," you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like and Black Panthers in the street with guns, and rightfully so.
Right.
It doesn't matter what side. I don't want to get on sides of that, but this is what's going on because you made it so nice for the middle fucking class, and they raise these kids, and these kids are now going to college. The kids are getting more information. They're having more ideas. Their dads made enough money. They don't have to fucking work hard. Now they're going to go be intellectuals and not lay bricks. And you have I can't remember his name. I should, if I'm going to go on a rant like this. He was a Supreme Court justice. He defined it as an excess in democracy.
Mm-hmm.
This an excess in democracy, like we have, you can't. America has never been designed to have a wealthiest 5% or 10% or 20% or 50%. It's always been by the 1% for the 1%, and they sell us.
Oh, absolutely.
These ideas, and we fucking buy. We could go into Pearl Harbor. Coincidence? Yeah, maybe. Gulf of Tonkin, Vietnam.
Pearl Harbor
Coincidence?
Was gas
JFK.
Tariffs, wasn't it? Fuel tariffs, oil tariffs, something
What?
like that against Japan. Pearl Harbor.
No, Pearl Harbor was when Japan bombed.
No, I know, but what was the reasoning? They said it was an unprovoked attack, but if you look at the deep reasonings, it was tariffs on Japan.
Oh yeah. No, but even going deeper than that,
It's always
like a week before they got bombed. This is America's first line. You were in Hawaii. That's our first line defense in the Pacific. And there's a fucking war going on. But we take all of our fucking... This is not like conspiracy theory. This is actual shit. We pull all of our goddamn warships out of Pearl Harbor, send them to Norfolk. We send them to Norfolk, and we send our ships for decommissioning.
And then they attack Pearl Harbor.
So you bombed our fucking shit. We were going to decommission these fucking ships and make merchant marine ships out of them anyway. Coincidence? Maybe.
Yeah.
Gulf of Tonkin? Proven. Coincidence? Maybe. All this shit that... People were like, "Oh, you're crazy. You're crazy." With the CIA and the fucking the cocaine and the crack epidemic in the Black community in LA. Oh yeah, you're crazy. You're crazy. Fucking true. It's all there. So it's 2023 now, and you're doing all this shit, and we can see it.
Yeah.
If you take away this agreement, Russia is going to invade the Crimea, and they did. And if you keep pushing for this, I believe in that treaty, like Ukraine and all these countries were not going to be allowed to be in NATO. But then here's the other kicker. Putin wanted Russia to join the UN. They laughed at him. Mm-hmm. What do you think's going to happen? Now, Russell Brand, who I am going to call an American fucking hero, and I did, he made it as plain. He went on the Bill Maher show, and if you haven't watched that, you got to, because he fucking checked Bill Maher.
I want to see what
and
Bill
he
Maher,
checked the liberal fucking cocksucker that was sitting into his left.
And the funny thing is Russell Maher.
Bill Maher.
Wow.
And I love Bill Maher. I'm a Bill Maher
Russell
guy.
Russell Brand, like, I remember in the early 2000s, I was never a conservative. I'm not a fucking libertarian.
What were you going to say, Russell Brand, when you think of his political affiliation?
I thought he was a fucking idiot, man. I thought he was a fucking little dipshit fucking...
What else?
Hippie fuck, like...
Liberal? He fucking is.
Yeah. But now he's speaking the truth.
No, but he is still a fucking anti-establishment liberal.
But he's spitting facts, like, for the good of people.
Yeah.
Not just, like... But back to, like...
He said if you have if you have industries in place, in power, that gain from fucking chaos and war, you're going to have war. If you have people in power, and I'm paraphrasing because he said it a lot better than me and in a sexy accent that I can't mimic, but he said if you have an industry in power that benefits from pandemics and fucking medical emergencies, you're always going to have a fucking medical emergency. So you've got war, the military industrial complex, you got big pharma, you got all, and we're sitting there and we're arguing with each other because you called me he and you assumed my gender and I don't want my kids going to a fucking transvestite reading hour. Like, I don't give a fuck where your kids go. I don't care where you take your kids. Do you really care where I take if I want to take my kid to a transvestite fucking movie hour, do you care? If I want to dress up like a fucking woman and go to fucking Walmart, do you fucking really care? Are you going to be rude to me? Are you going to call, hey, dude, right to my face?
It doesn't fucking matter.
You're not. If you fucking if you go to the store tomorrow and the cashier is an obvious man, but he's dressed up like a woman, you're not. Maybe you won't say yes, ma'am, but you're not going to be like, thanks, dude.
Exactly.
Because you're not a fucking asshole.
Exactly. It's just, man, it's
fucking psychopaths run this fucking country, bro.
Yep.
And if you step out of line, they will fucking kill you.
That's what
or put you in prison.
Bill fucking what's his name said.
Bill Burr.
Bill Burr said that, and that's where
the truth.
Everything we've talked about tonight has gone to that, and like.
So then you ask why people don't. This all kind of goes back to your original question of the greatest generation, how they all stood up and they went to war and the whole country and the women went to work and Rosie the Riveter and all this. What was it really about?
Fake fucking patriotism? I don't know.
Well,
system.
You can't tell the man and you can't tell the fools that survived D-Day and the Battle of the Bulge that it was fake because they were there.
It wasn't fake. I mean, it had to be done, but it was just,
Who did it serve? Because now our veterans
thank you,
are fucking like I have
my
to
grandfather.
I have to feel like I have. Okay, so let me just give you a little bit of, and we totally skipped over when we started talking about men's mental health, and I just we've got to get back to that because I have been hearing about and reading and watching about the psychedelics, and I fucking started it, and it totally was, and I want to touch on that.
I have knowledge on that as well. It was part of my research for my degree.
Right.
So I went
and I did it, and I started it. I haven't finished it yet.
Can we go back a little bit just to like I just want your answer on. Well, you said, what do you think of that? What do you think's a fair wage
middle class
disabled veteran
right now? Like $10,000.
Yeah. Why can't that be a fucking reality?
It could be with the money that the money.
What's stopping it? That's what I want. What's my question is?
Greed.
It is, but you've got people out there saying, no, that's fucking too much. What is too much?
If you gave a guy enough money to where he didn't have to go out and fucking work, number one.
Not just a guy. We're not talking about anybody.
Well, a person, a soldier. The way they look at it, if they honor you and they do that, then because you're not paying taxes on that money.
No.
So then what they want you to do with this whole system after the income tax and all this shit in 1912, I think was, or 1919, they want you to work because you're paying fucking taxes on your money. They depend on that money.
They want you to pay taxes.
When they borrow fucking money from, because there's no such thing as $9 trillion. If you take all the gold in the world, it's that money don't exist. It's all made up.
Right.
What they've done is they take you at birth, okay? And there's too many numbers. I'm just going to make this for like dummies like myself. They will calculate how much money you're worth to them based on the number of years you're expected to work and how much money you're expected to earn and your tax bracket. Mm-hmm. So they can already tell, all right, this guy's coming out of Dayton, Ohio. He's probably going to be a construction worker, or he's going to go work for the DuPont factory where everybody goes, and he's going to end up paying, every month, even though you get your tax return back, they're still taking your money every month and they're using it.
Right.
So that's all part of it. So you are nothing but a minion spitting out numbers to them. So if they were to give you a livable wage, you could live nice. Mm-hmm. Maybe you didn't go to work and you didn't pay taxes no more. Or maybe you had enough time to sit around and think up shit like this.
Yeah.
And maybe a couple of thousand of you guys that are living this nice, cushy fucking life get together and starts thinking, what the fuck did we do all this for? What the fuck this motherfucker? And now you got 1,000 trained fucking killers that aren't distracted. Come on, man. It's not.
Yeah.
It's really not rocket science. I'm not dropping bombs of knowledge.
No, this is the reality.
This is just what it is. I mean, Vlad the Impaler. What was he known for?
Impaling thousands of people to tear.
He would take all his. He would go and conquer a fucking village, and then the road back to wherever he was living, they would impale all their dead enemies. So anybody that was just wandering through fucking Yugoslavia, wherever the fuck this motherfucker was from, Romania.
Supposedly he lined his border with like 200,000 Turks or something like that.
Yeah. Vlad, that just used Vlad the Impaler because he comes to mind, but the English did it, heads on spikes. So if you were just coming into the area, like wandering through, like, hey, I like this place. They got nice fucking crops. Let's just fucking kill everybody and take it over. It'll be, oh, this motherfucking Brennan's crazy, man. He's got people strung up. You know what? Like the Turks used to fucking put live people on a stick that was like 12 feet tall, and they'd put it in their ass.
Yeah, let's let them slide down.
And then and the more they struggled, the faster they would slide down, and they would suffer. If I'm fucking watching that, and I'm thinking about fucking maybe taking what you got, am I capable of doing that? That's why psychopaths fucking run the country. And this country right now, step out of fucking line, and you'll go to prison. In prison, oh, these fuckers got it made in prison. Fuck you. Anybody that thinks these fuckers got it made in prison, maybe they're fed, barely. The food's crap. There's no rehabilitation, but you gotta fucking deal with the gangs and the shit that goes on in prison.
Being locked in a fucking that's, man, you want to get into some deep, like, fucking philosophical shit. Yeah. I've always sat back and wondered who the fuck decided that a person has the right to put another person in a box for the rest of their... Not just white people, man.
White people.
Think so?
White people.
Yeah, you're right.
That's a white people thing to do.
It's a very old European...
Because in Africa, like, if you look at, like, tribal shit, they would just kill you.
Yeah.
White people... I'm joking, of course, when I say white people, but Western mentality is you've got to be punished.
Yeah.
You did something that I don't agree with. You've got to be punished.
Look at Asia as well. Like,
I think they got that from us, though. They would kill motherfuckers, though. Like, you got hands chopped off over there.
Yeah, but you've got, like, who...
Like, getting your hand chopped off is rehabilitation, at least, right? I get caught stealing, you chop my hand off. Fuck, I like having my hand. I want to keep my other hand, so maybe I don't steal no more.
Yeah.
These motherfuckers ain't fucking around. And if you really do something egregious, they're going to take me up in the square and chop my fucking head off.
Right.
So maybe,
or kill your whole bloodline.
So maybe that's a goddamn rehabilitation, but you take a motherfucker and stick him in the box and he becomes another commodity. You're taking him out of the workforce. He's not going to pay taxes, but guess what? You get to build the state for all the fucking toothbrushes and all the food and the jobs that it creates.
The rehabilitation, the counseling.
When you create jobs in a town, you build a prison, there's 5 people in the town. Yep. You build a prison. Now, 20 years later, there's 10,000 people. There's a gas station. There's a haberdashery, which is where they make clothes. I learned that. I heard that the other day. There's a drugstore. Yeah. There's city jobs. Okay.
And there's all the county. Like,
that town
can
now bring in.
You get for free.
Yeah.
Like, I remember you heard the story. Did you ever hear about, like, back in the day, license plates used to be made by prisoners?
Yeah.
You ever hear that? Yeah. So
I think some of them still are.
What a fucking system we live in, where you can fucking make rules, your own rules. And then you can fucking bust people for those rules. You can put them into a system where they fucking create things for for instance,
for free
license plates, and then you fucking charge people driving the cars to buy the license plates, and they have to pay taxes to. Wow.
You know who can do that? You know who can get away with that? The person that's willing to fucking kill you if you fucking don't like it.
Yeah.
Or if you don't like it, you can go somewhere else. But this is my country, Jack.
Yeah.
I make the rules. Now let me get on their side a little bit. Let me fucking where are we at? Let me defend them a little bit.
Yeah.
I come into your little fucking town. You guys are starving. You got nothing. Your fucking cousins are fucking each other. You got nothing. Yeah. And I say, I'm going to build my fucking pen factory here. I got a government contract to supply the government with pens. I'm going to build it here. Okay? I'm going to hire everybody here who's going to have a fucking job. And everybody comes to work for me. And people start coming in from, I'm just use Appalachia because we're in North Carolina, but I employ all these people. Now I've turned your little fucking shit town, in my opinion, shit town. Maybe you liked it. Maybe you did. Maybe you're happy. I'm getting money. Money's flowing in.
Though,
and now you turn around and you tell me I'm not paying you enough.
Yeah.
You unionize and you create laws that make it so I have to give you an hour break every 3 minutes. Man, I'm losing a fucking hour of productivity. I have to pay you benefits.
Break every 3 minutes.
Yeah,
yeah. I know.
No, I got to pay you health care.
Yeah,
I've got to pay you. You're making it mandatory. By doing that, you just created more jobs because more people are now involved. And now my money, the money that you should be getting is now going here until, guess what? Fuck all y'all. I'm taking my shit to Mexico. Taking my shit to Indonesia.
Yep. Philippines, Korea. Well, Korea.
When you put it like that, I started the company. That would be like me buying 100 acres. Yeah. And then I say, okay, I'm going to give every veteran that I know, you can come and you can have a quarter acre. Okay. That's 400 people. You are going to pay me, you're going to pay this organization, this commune, your disability check. And for that, you're going to get a house. It's going to have power. Okay, you don't have to fucking work through it. You don't have to worry about nothing. This is our little fucking community. Only one I want you to do is like, are you a fucking herbalist or botanist? We're growing fucking potatoes and shit. You want to fucking maybe pull a couple shifts a week there and help out? It all goes. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. I start all this. And then all of a sudden, and I've actually thought about doing something like this, but what happens? Now you got 400 fucking dudes. Yeah. And they're going to start telling you, this is our land now. We live here, even though we signed a contract and all that shit, until I say, okay, fuck it. Get the fuck off my land. You're all evicted. You know what I mean? And then so you get a politician in there to tell me I can't do that. I can't displace all these people. Okay, I'm taking all my money and all my shit that's been keeping this together, and I'm going to another fucking place. Yeah. And what happens? It falls apart. Right. That's countries right there that happens to.
That's history, man. It's just like, and especially going with this shit, through this shit with my dad, I've come to the realization of how bullshit, like, there's every little thing designed to suck every penny from the person, period. I'm sitting there going through my dad's stuff, trying to find legal paperwork. And, I'm just like, it's all just such nonsense, because I'm opening, I'm sorting through his paperwork, and it's like, my dad gave to charities. And it's like there's so much stuff set up in our society just to drain everyone, period. Drain them completely. My dad paid his whole life for life insurance.
And we're talking about a guy who was middle class at best his whole life.
Lower.
That's what I'm saying, at best. Life. And he's given away to charity.
He got...
And that, I'm not saying this as, because 100 million people are just like that. That's why they're not running countries.
You know what fucking gets on my nerves the most out of anything, and I'm gonna tell everyone listening, don't ever fucking do this. You know what really fucking grinds my gears? When you go to, like, for instance, McDonald's or Walmart, right? And you're checking out, and what's that thing that comes across?
Do you want to donate?
Motherfucker, yeah. You're fucking Walmart. I'm pretty sure Walmart has fucking cartel money.
Well, do you know why they're doing that?
I'm pretty sure fucking I'm pretty sure Walmart is behind everything that's, there's factions of these billionaires that are behind all the stuff that's happening right now. How dare you fucking Walmart ask Joe fucking Snuffy, who's probably paying for his groceries with food stamps, has to pay $10 with his debit card for the non-food stamp items, to donate 3 fucking cents to charity. Yeah. What the fuck is that? What kind of mentality is that?
Let me just put it to you this way, and I'm just proposing this. Yeah. I don't know it to be a fact, but as a company, as a corporation, as a fucking taxpayer, you get tax breaks when you donate money. You do. Yep. I learned that when we started Operation Shred, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to get people to donate, and we're going to fucking go get some veterans and try to fucking get them hooked on our drug of surfing, and maybe it'll help them. Maybe it won't. Maybe they'll have a good time. We were kind of relying on, like, people like us get $5, $10, but I started reaching out and talking to people about, like, charities. Like, I need like $100,000. I need you to invest money. Like, you own a company. You get a tax break for this. Yeah, great. Where's your 501(c)(3)? Yeah. And that's when I found out that kind of disheartened. It kind of made me, if you notice, Operation Shred just kind of been sitting idle for a while. Right. One, because it takes a lot of work, but I don't want to fucking have a charity. Like, I don't want to take your fucking money to do something that we think is going to be good. You're only doing it because you're getting a tax break. Yeah. That's it. So what Walmart is essentially doing is they're taking all your money and they're putting it into a fund, if they even do that. I don't know who's tracking that. Yeah. I'm sure there's somebody that's tracking that, because it would be soliciting funds under false pretenses if they kept the money. But they got to get caught. They're like one of the largest. They are the largest. Remember when I said GM was the largest employer and they paid $5 an hour, which is like $75 a day? Walmart is now, and their average pay is $11 an hour. Yep. So $11 in 2023 is like $3. You know, so
I mean, like,
it's like backwards. So they take your money, and then they donate it, and they get the tax break with your money. Fuck you.
Exactly.
But here's the thing. That's the way the system's played. That's the way the game's played. That's the way it's rigged. And they figured it out. And you're the dumbass, essentially, in this system. You're the one that hasn't figured it out. So that's why you're shopping at Walmart with your food stamp card, and why you're, okay, I'll pay 3 cents. You know?
How about this, too? You know, back to my dad. Like, he paid life insurance premiums his whole life, right?
Yeah.
He had, you know, he didn't have much of an estate. But this is what's getting me, too. Because of laws that are put in place in this country, there's a chance that everything he ever fucking did can go entirely to the state. Yeah. What the fuck?
Yeah.
How is
well,
that?
Here's the thing. Maybe it doesn't, but there's a threat that it will unless you do something. And in order for you to do something about it, you have to know. You have to know everything, or you got to hire somebody that does. And that's where lawyers make their money.
Fucking game.
It's a fucking racket.
Racket. There we go.
It is. I mean, it literally is.
Yeah, it
it's just. But at the same time, if I'm a fucking lawyer, that's what I do. I mean, that's the path I chose, and so maybe you're just salty because you didn't choose to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So I always play devil's advocate. I am on one side, which is generally in the middle, but I try to look at it as if I'm a billionaire, because I'm gonna tell you right now, everything that I'm saying right now, everything that I feel, and I fuck you and them and that. Put $1 billion in my pocket, I guarantee you I'll sing your fucking song. $1 billion fucking dollars?
Oh, yeah.
$1 billion fucking. That's like these gangsters saying, oh, I ain't gonna snitch.
No,
Yo,
dude.
nobody goes to jail for 30 years, bro.
Yeah.
That's some street level shit.
Yeah.
The mafia with their fucking omerta. We don't
as much
snitch.
as I fucking
no,
hate
that's
him,
for you fucking lower guys.
As much as I hate him, like, I fucking hate this guy's guts. 6'9", we've talked about him before.
He's a fucking genius.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. How could you hate that guy?
He had a good point. He's like, and he was trying to, you know, I hope these kids listen to him, because he's trying to break that whole fucking, you know, that whole stigma that's in rap culture about, you know, not snitching.
Yeah.
And he's like, man, fuck these motherfuckers. Like, when I'm up there in the stand and I'm fucking facing life.
30 years he was facing.
He's like, these dudes don't give a fuck. They're not going to take care of my family. It's
They're
not
fucking
like that
my
anymore,
wife.
man.
One of them was fucking his wife or something
still,
like that.
I mean, I still think the dude's a little bitch, because I don't like him because he perpetuated stupidity. Like, he did.
Yeah.
He fucking made garbage music.
But if he did not perpetuate, if he did not do that, he'd be. I mean, he's fucking. He was not a privileged kid. He's from like East New York. He's East New York. Ain't nobody in East New York privileged, bro.
In 20.
Nobody in East New York in his neighborhood is privileged. I lived in Brooklyn. Okay.
But you lived in Brooklyn in the 80s. This is Brooklyn now, dude. We're talking about like
but I don't know. Maybe what I
$5,000 for like a 1-bedroom apartment. You know,
but I don't think gentrification has reached that part of East New York yet.
Yes.
I haven't been there in a while, so I could be wrong. I don't think he was privileged. I think he was the same. Like he's Mexican and Puerto Rican.
Yeah.
And I grew up. I mean, I don't say I grew up there. I went to high school there. I went there every summer. That's where my dad's family's from, so I'm familiar with the way Brooklyn breaks down. And for a long time there, you could tell. You know, if somebody was Italian, be like, "Are you from Bay Ridge? Or are you from Benson?" Because it was very segregated. For somewhat. But I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think that he grew up privileged. I think that he grew up in an era where he could get on YouTube. And I know I got so fascinated with him, I kind of followed him back to his beginnings. He was making shirts that would be like, said AIDS. It said AIDS.
Yeah.
And he don't have it, but people would be like, what the fuck? Because it got him attention.
Right.
He would be like doing like lip singing raps while getting a blowjob. So you couldn't see it. It wasn't porn. Shit. Yeah, it was shock shit.
Yeah.
And that got him views on YouTube. So he just kind of played into the system as it was laid out for him.
Right.
And I don't know what his net worth is. I don't know. I know he's been accused of all the fake money. And he's not like an idol of mine, but come on, man. What are we doing right now?
Yeah, good point.
You see what I'm saying?
Fair.
We're not original to this. We didn't invent the fucking podcast, and we're just two fucking dudes having a conversation, and we're hoping people listen to it. And you know, we're not making any money on it now, but it would be nice.
It would be.
You know, we'd probably get a lot better at it, but
I think we make some good points and get people thinking.
I think so too. You know, I think we've probably already got about 2 hours going, and we haven't even hit the main thing I wanted to talk about.
So let's get into it,
man. No, I can't. I can't. So. I really want to do a session on psychedelics and
men's mental health.
Men's mental health.
We want to be fucking, you know, we want to address everything. We want to address hear Black voices. Awesome. We want to address women's pride. We want to address,
But I can't speak on women's pride. I can speak on men's mental health.
No, I'm just about as a society.
Yeah,
we want to check every block, but we still want to fucking shit on men. Yeah. It's the time now to fucking address equality, period. Men are human beings. Men have a lot of stigmas in this society, And I don't believe that men need to back down and become little beta fucks like we see on TV. No, fuck that shit.
See, that's the other side. Like, if I start talking about my feelings, I guess would be the thing. Not even that, but or how I'm
toxic masculinity is a huge word now. No, fuck. There's no such thing as toxic masculinity. Fuck you. If there's such thing as toxic.
Yeah, the toxic masculinity. We all knew a douchebag in our time.
Then we need to address toxic feminism.
Yeah, but if we didn't have those douchebags, we wouldn't have fighter pilots. True. Because most of those fighter pilots, I've only ever met one. He was a nice guy, but I could see
they're
real douchey. Like
even my dudes who are good friends of mine who are in the special forces community.
Some of them, yeah.
They talk about fighter pilots in a special light. Dude, you better not go to a party where there's fighter pilots if you appreciate your relationship, because there's a good chance that dude's gonna fuck your wife. Right? That's basically how it sums it up. Yeah. But
exactly, I love it.
We need to talk about this shit, man, because we're in a weird place right here. We are in the last decade where we've taught men to be pussies. We've said, and you go on you go on the internet, and I think I've pointed this out to you. You might get it now when I talk about it. You go to YouTube and you'll hear a man talking like he's a 12-year-old teenage girl.
Yeah.
And it's not just, there's a lot of guys like that now that talk like they're teenage girls. And that's just their normal cadence of how they speak. And we've really broken men down in the past 10 to 20 years. And I'm sorry to say, but that's damaging to the world, I'm
going to dip since we're coming to the end here, or close to the end. No, I agree, man. I don't want to sit here and cry like, we're the last minority and we're getting, I don't want to get on that, the white male, straight white male in America is under attack and all that. But just things like the mental health of men, talking about it. Because right now there's somebody listening to this right now, and they're thinking pussy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I don't give a fuck.
I don't give a fuck. I can sit you down. I'm not going to name anybody. I know people right now that if anybody's a candidate to have any type of issues, I'm talking about from childhood rearing to war, but they would still call me a pussy. They'd say, "Yeah, you're fucking don't speak on my behalf."
Right.
Speak for the beta men. And we're not even talking about anything. We're just talking about mental health. You know what I mean? And that's something that's new to me, because I've always been of the mindset, and I've told my kids this, and I've reared children and told them that men don't cry. We fucking hold that shit in, and then we fucking go around the corner, and if we got to cry, we let it out, but we don't let nobody seeing us cry.
Right. Yeah.
You know how fucking wrong that is? Absolutely. And I'm telling this to a fucking, I don't know, a small boy. You know what I'm saying? I know John's 11, but I've raised other kids before him, and I'm telling them this, like, hey, we don't cry. Now, when I've told them, when you strike out baseball or you get tackled in football, don't go crying and pitching a fit. That's a sport. I'll stand by that. Don't go throwing your bat around like, have some pride, hold your head up, But crying in general at a funeral, just lost somebody, but we don't cry. We hold it. We let the women cry. That sounds noble on TV, don't it?
Yeah.
That sounds gangster as fuck.
No, it's not.
I don't cry. Let the women do that, and if I want to cry, I'm going to go off. And hearing myself say that, I can remember a time when that was my philosophy, and and knowing that I've said that to kids that for all intents and purposes are listening to me, thinking maybe they're thinking, okay, this is, because that's the way I was taught. And I'm embarrassed. You know what I mean? That fucking is so embarrassing to me. And that's what more like I'm talking about. Like, I'm not saying we got to fucking sit around and sing Kumbaya and all that, but it should not take, I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. And a lot came when I fucking took those fucking mushrooms, bro.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna walk everybody through my experience with that.
Yeah.
And I'm not done. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it was not fun. It wasn't bad. It was fucking horrifying. But it wasn't bad. You know what I mean? And I really want to take the time and I want to walk because that's a big subject right now. You know, the VA's even looking at, in some states, they're
Oregon,
using
they just
it.
approved the first 30 physicians to perform legal psilocybin therapy.
And I'm going to tell you right now, anybody that says, oh, that's just a drug.
No.
That's making your mind think that it's not real. Anybody that, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I would have said the same thing.
Yep.
But I'm going to tell you, I've done acid before, okay? And I'm not saying there's no therapeutic effects. I was a young kid when I did it. But mushrooms, this shit comes out of the fucking earth.
Yep.
And what I experienced on that was, I mean, I'm lost for words because there's so many different routes I want to go. But I don't know if it's helpful. I don't know because I've only done it once. And you know, when I start talking about it, everybody that has got experience with this is like, yeah, it's doing what it's supposed to do.
Right.
Like, you're not, some people get cured in one session and I didn't do it, probably maybe not enough, but I did enough to fucking.
I'm afraid of it, man. Cause like, I haven't been there yet.
Oh
that
God.
Deep, and I don't think I want to be there yet because I've had a similar experience where I got deep into my head like that on honestly, I don't even know what it was, but it was in Korea. Don't know if I'm breaking any international laws here, but
fuck it.
Anyhow, I was taken to a very terrifying place. I was not in control of my mind, and I was conscious the whole time, which is crazy, but I could see myself. It was like I was watching how do I explain this? I was watching my mind, and I was watching things happening in my mind, and I was conscious the whole time, and I thought in my head that I was never going to come out of it, and that I was going to be insane.
What were you on?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
It was given to me
right
before I left Korea in 2002, and we were hanging out with some. I'm just gonna go real quick. We were hanging out with some girls, some Korean girls, and they were like super into this stuff, and it was a pill. And I was given 3 of them, and I was drinking, and it was my last week there. We were just partying, and it might have been, from what I understood,
ecstasy.
That's what it could have been. And anyhow, it took me into a place where I was hallucinating, and like I said, the strange thing is that I was conscious. My what's the word I'm looking for? I could see what was happening from a third point of view, but my mind and my body were going crazy. All right. And I'm witnessing this going down. It was almost like a movie. I could see the difference in reality. My thoughts were going crazy, but I had a voice in my head that knew what was happening. And this voice thought, "Oh shit, you went too far. You're fucked. You're gonna be crazy.
Yeah,
you're not gonna come out of
some
this."
drug shit.
But
because I didn't nothing close to that on mushrooms.
When I came through,
similar. But
it was really happy, and I felt amazing, and I was relieved that I was back to normal function. But it did change me, and it hasn't been like it changed my perception. I'll put it to you that way. I was very relieved that I came back, but it was just very confusing. But anyhow, what you were saying, like people who think that shit's not real, like our minds are something we can't explain even,
right?
You know? And
what makes you think? That's what I tell people all the time. Like, what makes you think that you fucking know that?
You can't. Here's my
thing.
You
use like 1% of your fucking brain. Yeah. You've never studied it. You fucking did this your whole life.
Right.
You've lived here your whole life. You've never studied it from a scholastic standpoint. You've never experienced it yourself. So what the fuck gives you the right to even make a judgment?
Right.
Because that's what you just choose to believe. You know what I mean? And I can't, and I would have thought that way at one time too, because it's just the way I was raised. But everything you just described, that sounded like some trippy drug shit.
Yeah.
It was very similar, but I felt more connected to my ancestors, like in my genes, and my DNA has a memory. And people are like, "Oh, that's crazy," but think about it. I've got a fucking dog that's bred to do one thing, and that's all she wants to do. And no one taught her. Yeah. You know, you get a dog that wants to a beagle, you know, that bark and do all. Dogs are bred for specific things. Some people can pick up a fucking guitar and just play it. I play the guitar. I'm learning to play it. It's very hard for me because it doesn't come natural, whereas some people just pick it up and it makes sense.
Right.
You're telling me that's just luck?
No.
It's got to be. So I felt really connected to my fucking... And in my case, my DNA, my genetics, there is a lot of guilt, a lot of shame, a lot of posturing, a lot of embarrassment. that's what hopefully I'll do it again and I'll learn more and more. But I haven't been the same since. I haven't. Right. People that know me, I haven't posted on. I'm normally on Facebook all the time. If something comes to my head, normally I'm very opinionated.
4 days at least. 4 times a day you'll post something on Facebook.
And it's always something very like shocking. Like I'm saying this in your face, knowing that some people are going to disagree or it's about religion. I get an opinion about something I did, and I'm thinking, okay, this is a very sarcastic way for me to put it. It's going to make people think. It's going to piss some people off. It's going to make people engage. Or at least that's the way I think it's going to go down. That's gone. Mm-hmm. I look at stuff on Facebook. I'm looking. You guys are out there. I'm looking, but I go to post something. I'm like,
you don't even care about it because that's all fake.
It's all fake.
It's all fake. It doesn't matter. See?
This person that I have been essentially my whole life. I'm talking way back. And I was telling you before, I felt like what I would imagine someone who was sexually abused felt like.
Right. That
guilt, that shame, that little. To my knowledge, I never was.
Right.
You know what I mean? To my knowledge, I never was. I can remember back to being 3 years old. I don't think I was. I can't recall. So I'm not going to play that. Oh, I was. I'm a victim. You know what I mean? But I felt now people in my family were. You know what I mean? I felt very connected to that.
How could you not? You know, we'll have to go into a whole, because like there's things, I think when we did our hunting podcast, I talked about this with my Civil War ancestors and like deja vu.
Yeah.
How can you not think that our bodies store stuff like a computer, memory? Our genes have to be able to.
Again, the way I felt was, how come this never dawned on me before?
Right.
Like it's so fucking obvious.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if you think about it, and I'm going to end on this note, and then I'm going to give it to you, and then I got to go pee again, and we got to go home. And then
we got to close it out.
If you think about early man,
right?
If it's even if it's not true, if you think about early man walking around the forest with a club on his shoulder, you know, and he's fucking foraging for food. Mm-hmm. He comes across, you know, me and you and some other dudes, and we're just like, oh, we don't even talk yet. Right? We're just like, oh. We're not even making fire yet. We're just following lightning around and we're keeping the fire going. Mm-hmm. And we fucking pick up these fucking mushrooms.
That are there.
That
have grown out of the earth.
Yeah.
That will only react with a certain chemical in our brain.
Now all of a sudden we're sitting around the fire and I start thinking, hey man, what's that fire? It's like heat. You ever notice whenever we slide down a fucking tree, our hands burn?
Right.
What if we... And that is... I mean, that's where the evolution of the human brain comes from. And maybe it's all by design. Maybe it's an accident. Maybe that's where our part of it evolved. What do you call what do they call that word where you're trying to speed something up? Evolution. There's a word for it. There's a belief that aliens are farming, like they put us here and we're being monitored, and we'll get into that because I have been going down that rabbit hole big time. But I'm gonna let you close it out, Brent. I'm glad you came in, man. I mean,
it's been rough.
I was really teetering on the okay. I gotta let this guy have his space. 'Cause I know you're going to mourn and you're going to process things differently than I do, and I'm trying to keep that in consideration. But at the same time, we got to get this done.
That's right.
And at this other time, I'm like, would I be a good friend or a bad friend by saying, take all the time you want, or get your ass up, put one foot in front of the other, and let's talk about it. You know what I'm saying?
I want to close on that tonight. That's a very good thing to bring up. That's a very good mentality to have. I could have sat and I could have just, dwelled in my misery and felt sorry for myself because I've got a long road ahead of me with this situation. Mm-hmm. I've got a lot of battles to fight, and I've got a lot of healing and for those of you out there who've lost a parent, that's probably one of the most major things in your life to face, and it's going to take a lot. It's going to take a lot, but it also ties into what we're talking about tonight. The best thing to do is get out there and fucking do it.
Do it.
And send it. That's our whole motto of our, everything we do. And so I just want to say thank you for tuning in. This is our second official episode?
This is the first official. The other one we did a pre-pilot.
That's right.
Then the last one with the shitty audio was the pilot. This is the first episode. And the next one we're going to start and we're going to tackle men's mental health.
Yes,
and we're going to talk
our next
about
episode.
So be doing your homework if you got to do any homework. Right. Start recalling all of your demons, and we're going to fucking flesh that shit out right there.
I think next episode we'll go into a little bit about ourselves, and we'll talk about where we're from, who we are. What do you think about that?
Yeah. That'll all be included. And then maybe some of these people, now I know I've got I know I've got a really cool part of our what we're going to do is we're going to do this, but we're also going to have the interview. We're going to spotlight. We're going to have people on, and we're going to get into their upbringing, their trek through the military. And I got one guy named I don't know if I should say his name or not because he's committed, but he hasn't committed. I won't say it. I'll wait. But he's fucking hilarious. He's a good dude. He's done it. He's been there, and you're going to really enjoy that. So if you're listening, Mr. Others, you know, I text him all the time. I know he's handling some shit right now. I'm like, hey man, you want to put something on wax? You want to do it? He's like, this week. But yeah, we got good things to come, bro.
All right. So yeah, once again, hey, if you can, you know what? Here comes the pitch, the sales pitch. All right, you can get out there. You could fucking blow $5 at 7-Eleven on some bullshit. All right, please, if you can, help us build this. All right, we're all along. This is a great forum we have going.
This shit
here.
costs money and time.
Right. If you can get on Patreon, donate. All right,
$1 a month.
That's it. Spread
Set it
the
up
news.
for autopay.
Fucking like all that bullshit. I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I hate saying
share.
like, share, but you know,
like, share, comment, leave a thumbs up, thumbs down.
As you can see, this is a pretty open forum. We talk about everything, and if you dig it, get on and listen and tell your friends about us. And we thank you for supporting. We thank you for tuning in. And once again, that's a good copy. How copy?
It's a good copy.
All right, and we are out.
Out here.